Hello there, this is Mark Sabatella from Mastering MuseScore. In this video, I'm going to show you everything you need to know to get started using MuseScore and create your own music. We're going to show you just how to find your way around the interface, how to actually create the new score, enter notes, edit them, add more markings, do a little formatting, listen to the playback, and go ahead and save it and print it. So we're going to show you all of those things with a very simple score that I've created to use for this demonstration. So if we look at the score that we're going to use here, we can see it's a score for piano with two staves. It's 1 sharp key signature, G major, 4/4, has a tempo of 126. So that's what we're going to do, and the piece is called A Little Piece. So I'm going to go ahead and here on the home screen of MuseScore, I will click the New Score button. When you create a new score, you're given a choice. You can either choose individual instruments for your score, or you can use one of the ready-made templates. I'm going to go ahead and choose the Grand Staff template because that's a good fit for what I'm trying to do, piano music here. And next, I'll click Next, and here's where I can enter that other information that I highlighted earlier. I can enter the key signature of G major. I can enter a time signature, and 4/4 is the default, so I'll leave it there. I can add a tempo marking to my score. I'll click the checkbox here and set the tempo to 126. I can also select how many measures I want in my score. And if you don't know, that's fine. Just go with the default 32. You can always add more measures later, remove more measures later. So now I can come to the title and enter my title, A Little Piece. Enter my name as the composer. The subtitle was For Kari. And I'll just call this Done. So now we have the score all set up and ready for us to start entering music. Now, I say it's ready for us to start entering music, but let me just show you a few things before we actually enter any notes. I just want to give you a brief tour. At the top of the window, you'll see the main menu. If you're on Mac, it might look a little bit different in how it's organized. Then we have these toolbars. The first toolbar has these tabs for the home page where we started, and then the score page, which is where we're actually going to be for the remainder of this lesson. You can also access parts if you have an ensemble score and a mixer to choose different sounds. We have a playback toolbar, and we have the note input toolbar that we're going to be using throughout this lesson. Then we have a sidebar on the left that has palettes, and the palettes are going to have all the markings that we need to add to our score other than the actual notes. There's also tabs here for instruments and properties that allow us to add more instruments to our score and change individual settings for different markings and so forth. And in future lessons, we'll take a look at that. Finally, at the bottom of the window, we have the status bar, which shows us other information about our score, such as the current zoom setting here. All right, before we enter notes, I want to show you one more thing, and that's how to actually move in your score. If you have a mouse with a scroll wheel, then you can actually turn the scroll wheel. In my case, I have a touchpad, and 2-finger swipe is going to be the shortcut for scrolling, and that works on most programs. Shift with 2-finger swipe will scroll horizontally. On some toolbars, on some touchpads like mine, I can actually just move my hand in a circle. So that's how you can move around. The other thing you might want to know about are the home and end keys and page up and page down. If you have physical home key, then home just takes you to the beginning of the score. End takes you to the end, and that's fairly standard things. If you don't have physical keys, which I actually don't for home and end, it's FN left is home, FN right for end. And then FN up is the page up key, and FN down is the page down key, which will just kind of scroll one screen full at a time. All right, so now that I'm back at the beginning, I'm finally ready to enter notes. So far we've been in what we call normal mode in MuseScore, which is the mode you'd use for navigating around, selecting things, editing things. But when we enter notes, we're going to be in note input mode. To do this, I'm going to select the measure that I want to enter notes into, the first measure, and I'm going to use this icon at the far left of the toolbar to enter note input mode. When I press that button, the cursor changes to this box, this little blue box telling me where I'm about to enter notes. And as I move my mouse around, you can see there's an outline of the note that I'm about to enter. That's how you know you're in note input mode. The keyboard shortcut for note input mode is N. If I press N now, it'll take me out of note input mode. N again takes me in. Another way of leaving is to press Escape. All right, let's go to note input mode and finally enter notes. The way we're going to enter notes in MuseScore is to first select a duration, and then we can select the pitches that we want to enter. So let's bring back the score so we remember what it is that we're actually trying to enter here and start entering some notes. The first thing I need is a half note D. So I'll use the toolbar to select the half note, and then I'll come over to the score and click. And there's my D. Next, I need some quarter notes. So I'll select the quarter note icon and start clicking to give me more notes. By the way, I often find trying to click notes to be a little frustrating unless I zoom in a little bit. So I'm going to use Control and two-finger swipe to zoom in a little bit. And now it's going to be a little bit more accurate for me to be able to click. And now I can type in my A and my C. The next thing I need is to enter a dotted quarter note. Well, the quarter note is still selected, but I need to tell it also to dot it. So I'm going to select the dot button, the augmentation dot button on the toolbar. So I have the quarter note selected and the augmentation dot. That's going to give me a dotted quarter. And now I can click the score, and there's my B. All right, now at this point though, I kind of want to stop using the mouse so much and start using keyboard shortcuts because it's really very efficient. So for instance, that augmentation dot that I just clicked, the period would have done the same thing with a keyboard shortcut. What about the other things, the duration and the notes? Well, let's talk about that. The durations that we're going to deal with most often in music are eighths, quarters, and halves. The shortcuts for that are 4, 5, and 6, the middle row of a numeric keypad. 4, 5, 6 is eighth, quarter, half. So the next thing I need is an eighth note, so 4 gives me the eighth note. To enter the note, I just type its name, A. The next thing I need is a half note, G, so 6, G. Next, I need some eighth notes, 4, F, and E. Now notice I typed F, but because of the key signature, I actually got an F sharp. MuseScore is going to handle that for you. Next, I need a quarter note F sharp, so 5, F. The next thing we need to learn here is how to enter a tie. Now by definition, ties connect notes of the same pitch. So I'm not going to need to enter the F again. All I'm going to have to do is tell MuseScore how long the note I want to tie to is. And in this case, it's a quarter note. So 5 for quarter note, which was already selected, but it's not going to hurt to press it again. And then type T for tie. And it's going to enter the note and tie it for us all at once. Let me actually undo that with Control Z. And now I'll show you that we can do the same thing using the toolbar, just clicking the tie button. Same thing. All right, the next thing I need is to enter a half note E. So 6 and then E. And now I need a quarter note E. 5, E again. Now MuseScore is going to guess that you meant the same E, but in this case we really wanted it an E an octave higher. The shortcut for that is Control Up. That's going to take the note you just entered, move it up an octave. Control Down for down an octave. If you're on a Mac, then it's probably the Command key that you are going to want to use. So Command is anytime I say Control in any of my lessons, just mentally substitute Command. All right, at this point, we've finished those first 4 measures of the right hand. So I want to kind of go back now and get the left hand notes in here. So I'm scrolling back to the beginning, but I want to actually get to the first measure for note input mode. The thing I recommend for this is to actually leave note input mode by pressing Escape and then click the measure where you want to start again and press N again. Anytime you're changing from one staff to another, that's often the easiest way to go about it. Leave note input mode, select where you want, and press N again. So now we're ready to enter the left-hand notes and learn a couple new tricks while we're at it. Right off the bat, we get to learn rests. So we want a quarter rest, so 5 for quarter. To enter a rest, remember that for notes we use their letter names, A through G. Well, for a rest, we're going to use 0 for the rest. That's how we enter rests. What if you want to do it with a mouse? Well, I will undo that. And now I'm going to come over here, and instead of clicking on the staff where I want the note, I'm going to right-click. Ooh, I accidentally left-clicked, so I will Control-Z here and right-click and give myself that rest. My touchpad here is 2-finger tap for right-click, and occasionally 1 finger touches first, and so that's why that mistake sometimes happens for me. In any case, I have my rest now, and I'm ready to start entering some notes. So G, F sharp, and G, still quarters. Next, I need a half note C, so 6, C, and it chose the closest C, which was up, but I want down, so Control down. Now quarter notes, D, and then D sharp. Well, there's multiple ways of entering accidentals. I want to show you the way that I'm usually going to try here, which is to select the accidental first, just like we did with the duration, right? We select the duration, then the pitch. I'm going to select the accidental before the pitch also. So I can either click the toolbar icon for the sharp, or I can use the keyboard shortcut plus for sharp. Plus for sharp does the same as clicking the icon, and now I can type the D, and I get a D sharp. Next, I need a half note, 6, E. I need a half note D natural. Well, plus was sharp, equals is going to be natural, so equal D. Now you might be wondering why there's a natural sign there, because it's already D in the key. Well, it's because there was a D sharp in the previous measure, and it's considered good practice to explicitly cancel that in the next measure, even though technically it reverts to D natural already. This is called a courtesy accidental, and it's just considered good form to always put a courtesy accidental in the next measure. The next thing we need is a C sharp, so plus, and these are all half notes, so I can keep letting that 6 ride. So plus to give me the sharp, and then C, and then the A. All right, at this point I'm done with those first 4 measures worth of notes. Now you'll notice that in MuseScore here, I've got room for some more measures on this system, but in the finished piece here, there's really 4 measures per system, and I kind of want to end my system here. And I'm going to do this the same way that I would in a word processor, by hitting Enter. And that adds a system break for me, and there's a little icon for it that you can see here. So now I'm ready to continue entering notes for the second system. I'm going to go ahead and hit Escape and then click the measure of the top staff where I want to enter notes here. And now go to, but I was about to start entering notes, and then I looked at the music, and I'm noticing these next 2 measures are really identical to the first 2 measures. So instead of actually entering those notes again, I want to show you how to use copy and paste. So I'm going to scroll back to those first 2 measures. I'll click the first measure, an empty spot within it, to select it, and then shift-click the next measure to select it. Click something, shift click something else is how you select the whole range of things between those endpoints. That's something that works across a lot of different programs. So now that I have those measures selected, Control C for copy. And again, that's the standard shortcut, but if you're not remembering that, it's there in the Edit menu as well. Edit, Copy. Now that that's copied, I can come down to the next system here and Control V to paste it. And I just saved myself a little bit of work. In fact, I'm almost done with the right-hand part. All I need to do is go to the third measure here, Note Input Mode, and give myself a whole note. We haven't had any yet, but 4, 5, and 6 was eighth, quarter, half. Larger numbers are longer durations. So if 6 is half, 7 is whole. So 7, G. And then finally, the last note is 5, G, but an octave higher. All right, I will hit Escape to leave Note Input Mode here, come back to measure 5, left hand, and get those notes in there. So N for Note Input Mode, 5 for quarter note, B, A, 6 for half, plus for sharp, G, 5 for quarter note, A. Now the next note I need is E flat. Well, we've seen plus for sharp, we've seen equals for natural, minus is going to be flat. So minus E. And that's the wrong octave because it's picking the closest one. So Control up moves it up. And again, Command if you're on Mac. So finally, let's get the rest of this measure in. D, F sharp, G. I say finally, but there's one new thing we have to learn, and that's triplets. To enter triplets in MuseScore, the first thing you want to start with is the total duration of the triplet. So here we have 3/8 notes in the space of 1 quarter. So we're going to start by selecting the quarter note duration, 5, and then we're going to divide it into 3 pieces with Control 3. And again on Mac, Command 3. And now I can type my notes. A D, and then an E natural, so equals for my natural, E, and then the D. And that E natural, by the way, is also a courtesy accidental. It's just there to remind people the E flat is no longer in effect. And some more eighth notes, 4, C, B, quarter, A, G. And now I'm done with the notes. So I can leave Note Input Mode with Escape. All right, I'm done with the notes, but there's still a little bit of work to do before we can call this score done. First thing I want to do is get rid of all those empty measures. You know, I guessed there were 32, or I just accepted MuseScore's offer of 32, but let's get rid of the rest. I'm going to click the first empty measure, and then the standard shortcut to select to the end of a score is going to be Shift to select, and then Control End to go to the end of the score. Shift Control End is the shortcut to select to the end of the score. Shift Control Home, select to the beginning. And then to actually delete those measures, it's going to be Control Delete. And now those measures are gone. All right, I'm very close to being done, but I've got a few markings left to add. So dynamics are the next thing. So to enter the dynamics, I'm going to click that first note here, and I want the mezzo piano. Well, you can see that the dynamics palette is already open here. If it's not already open for you, these arrows here, or just clicking the palette there, will open it and close it. So clicking the dynamics palette, I can click the mezzo piano marking. Then I can come over to the measures 3 and 4, click measure 3, shift click the next measure to select those 2 measures, and then I can enter my crescendo from the palette also. That one has a keyboard shortcut. It's the less than sign because it looks like a crescendo. All right, the next system, I'm actually going to zoom back out because I don't need as much precision as I did before when I was entering notes. It starts with a forte, and it was Control, remember Control and 2-finger swipe or scroll wheel down is zoom in, and zoom out is Control and mouse wheel up. So I'm going to select the D here and then enter the F for forte from the palette. Last markings that I see I need are accent marks on the final two notes. So I can click that top G and then I can control click the bottom G. Control click is a way of selecting individual notes, and you can select as many individual notes or really markings of any kind as you want with control click. So I've got those two notes selected, and now I can come to the toolbar and click the accent. And the accent also has a shortcut, Shift V, but I'll go ahead and click the toolbar. All right, I think I am now done with the score. I think I have everything in it. So now I'd like to hear it. I'll go ahead and click the first note to tell MuseScore where to start the playback. And now I can either click the play button on the toolbar or use the keyboard shortcut, which is space. And there you have it. We've completed the piece, we've heard it. I think at this point we should probably save it. So I can come to the File menu and say Save. Now the first time you save, MuseScore is going to offer you a couple of choices. You can either save to the cloud or on your computer. We can talk about cloud saving some other time. I'm just going to pick that I want to save to my computer, and you can select what folder you want to save to. This is the Linux version of the dialog. You might be on Windows or Mac OS. Your dialog will look different, but this is where you would be able to save the score. You can also, from the File menu, print the score, or you can export it to PDF and hit the export button, and again you'll get to select a file name and export it to a PDF. Well, there you have it. At this point you've learned pretty much everything there is to know about the basics of note input and setting up a simple score and doing your playback, so that you can start creating your own music now with MuseScore 4.